Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Go Anteater podcast. Today, I have a guest, and his name is Steve Vaughn, and he has kind of worn many hats for us here at ABC. He's got some stories that we're going to go through today. He's been with us for a good bit, and so he has a lot of different stories from us, but we're going to pick out a few today, kind of go through some of the fun ones. So, hey, Steve, welcome to the podcast today. How are you doing?
I'm glad to be here. Glad to be here.
So I wanted to start with, give me just a story from the day out in the field, one of your favorite stories that occurred whenever you were out.
Okay. One of them was I had a gentleman with me, and I was training him on how to do initials. And we had this one client we're going out to. She was out of town, but she was supposed to be back in around the time that we were to start, but she got there late. And what it was about fleas. And the fleas were she was noticing a few in the garage apartment, which is separate from the house. And that's where her mother stayed, small. And she had seen a few fleas. So we get there and no one answers the door. So what we do is we call her and she says, well, I'm on my way. Just go ahead and start outside. So we started outside the apartment as well as the house, and did our job, and then we knocked on the door again because she's supposed to be there,
Right.
and she wasn't answering. And so we stood there and we waited, and finally her daughter drove up, and so she came up and we told her, I said, we've been here for about an hour. And so she kind of panicked and went to the door and knocked on the door, and when she opened that door, I have never seen in my life so many fleas.
Oh, man.
It was like a black cloud just coming out, and we all just kind of stood there, and you could feel them hitting your legs.
Oh, man.
I mean, literally a cloud. It was, it's one of those things where at first you want to run,
Right.
but I stood there and let them just get all over all of us, and then the daughter kind of backed up, and we went on inside and walked around. We didn't see her mother anywhere.
Oh, man.
And then I took a few more steps over and I looked, and her mother had fallen in between the wall and the bed.
Oh, no.
And she's like 85. If she couldn't get out, she got pinned. And she was just laying there, and I kind of shook her, and her daughter was going crazy. And I moved her back, and I said, let us get her out of there.
Right.
And we got her up. She was just kind of moaning, and we got her up out of out between the bed, got her outside, and we cleaned her off the best we could, or trying to get them fleas off and us. And her daughter was asking her, well, how long have you been there? And she said, this was Wednesday. Well, we were there on Friday.
Oh, man.
2 days. So called an ambulance. The ambulance came and picked her up, and they got there, and she was starting. We'd given her water because she was dehydrated. And it was
48 hours.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't sit still 5 minutes.
Right.
And she was laying just like this.
Oh, man.
And so we got her up. The ambulance took her off, and we went ahead and finished the job. And it was satisfying. Her daughter called back and said she's going to be okay. I want to thank you for basically saving her life. And so it was one of those deals where we got all cleaned up, got everything cleaned off, and it ended on a funny note because neither one of us wanted to get in our truck with all those fleas.
Right.
So the house backed up to a field where a bunch of cows were, and had this big sign out there by the barbed wire fence. So you couldn't see it behind us. So we went behind the sign and stripped our clothes off and shook them in the wind and did all this stuff. And then we didn't realize there was a street that was running sideways.
Oh, no.
We hadn't even noticed that, and cars were driving by, and we're out there taking our clothes off and knocking them back and forth. Well, we got them clean enough to get back in the car. And I'd say that's my best stop ever.
Wow. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Talk about some advertising right there, though. Two guys stripping down with the truck sitting right there.
Thank goodness I had the good clothing on.
Oh, yeah. Hey, it's
But-
just Everyone in the pest industry will definitely understand how that is.
Yeah, and it was so cool because this lady, just 48 hours. And I thought, and we're standing outside the door, but couldn't get in. But her daughter was freaking out.
Oh, I would be too, though.
Yeah,
That's a scary situation.
But 2 days later, she got to come home to a flea-free apartment because I went back the next day. And we treated it again, and I did all the vacuuming and everything that you're supposed to do. So she's good to go.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for that. That's definitely a story. We haven't had that one on the podcast yet. I think Fleas this is the first one for the podcast, so that's nice to have that perspective. Also being one that's a very memorable story.
Every second.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And those stories just stick into your head. I definitely have a few. You've been with me on some of those.
Oh, yeah.
But with that, I want to kind of segue into, so what charges you up about ABC? What keeps you at ABC? Because you've been with us for a while now, and so what fires you up here?
Well, it's a Christian company. We guarantee our work. And the good thing is we're not just an employee. I mean, you can tell by my good-looking skull there that I'd had a car accident. Dennis took time out of his day every day to come to the house. She was even a couple times. I think I might have called him Karen, my wife, because I wasn't all there.
Right.
But that's one of the things. He takes time, as well as the managers take time, and they want us to spend time with the employee rather than just fly through it. And it starts at the door and ends up as well as when you're leaving.
Right.
And plus the fact that we guarantee all our work. So
Absolutely.
it's a good place to work because no one's going to fire you. If you do your job, the only person that can fire you is yourself.
That's accurate. That's accurate.
And but I've been here coming up on 15 years, and I love it.
Oh, yeah. Well, and you've been through different positions, different things. One of the things that I will always remember was there was one summer I was riding with you, and you had a note card deck where you'd flip through, and I just thought it was genius because it would have little notes about each of the customers that you were talking to. And how you walked in was a way that I started going, hey, that's how I need to look at customer service on certain things. Because you'd be able to say, how's Gene doing? How's Bob doing? You'd be able to throw out the kids' names, ask how they're doing off of that type of thing. And then I also have never seen someone been able to upgrade rodent like you. You made it very conversational, but at the end of it, they felt like if they didn't talk to you on that and went with you on that they were missing out on something. That's something special I hadn't seen from everybody here.
Well, I appreciate it. We, something similar to that is, I don't know if you were riding with me. I was always having kids follow me around in the house. They wanted to see what I did. And that always, it kind of bugged me at first because I didn't want to, step on one or say something or do something. And my wife said, well, you ought to just give them insects. And I thought, that's what I'm there to kill.
Right.
And she laughed. She goes, no, go down to the store and buy a lot of those little insects. So I carried pouches of insects, and I would give them an insect every time I was there. And they followed me around, and I can promise you I had less cancels than all of them because when I show up at that door, those kids were there, and they knew that I had something.
Oh, for sure.
And they followed me around.
And for everyone listening or watching, those insects were not live insects.
Nope.
They were plastic insects, but they're, little toys that definitely got kids' attention. I remember that about you too.
Yeah, they were dollar store toys, but they enjoyed them.
Oh, for sure.
And they had them when I went back.
Oh, yeah. Well, and it's something that they don't see every day. From people coming into the house, if there's anyone coming to do service at the home, that's something unique. And that, I definitely think that was a piece that was unique about how you approach customer service and our customers.
We're all humans, got to treat each other good.
Absolutely agree with that. Well, with that, I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for coming onto the podcast, being a part of the Go Anteater podcast today. Always loved having you in the ABC family. I've learned a lot from you over the years too, and I thank you for that. So it's nice having you be able to come and do an episode with us today.
Well, thanks for having me. Feel like a star.
Hey,
Thank you.
That's the goal for this, right?
Well, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Well, and please, everyone listening, just keep to stay tuned. Give us a comment, like, or subscribe to all of our different channels that we have. We have this going on YouTube. We have it going on podcasting. Just make sure you interact with us. We want to hear from you guys. That way we can kind of make sure that you're enjoying the content you're hearing. And stay tuned for more to come, because this is something where we very much enjoy doing. This is kind of a pause from the day-to-day, getting to actually just kind of have a conversation and have fun with it. So please stay tuned for the next Go Anteater podcast episode. Thank you. And cheers, everybody.
ABC Home and Commercial Services.